Hey kids, it's the Drive to School podcast. I'm Pastor Goodman, and I'm here to talk to you about important theological concepts like, the sovereignty of God. We're going to talk about why God is sovereign and why that matters today. Sovereignty is it's a fancy word like in control. God is in control. There's nothing in control of Him. He is in control of all things. And so you can sort of make this sort of like a bumper sticker kind of Hobby Lobby sign, God has a plan or God is in control. And that's a wonderful thing only insofar as we have talked about all the other stuff. And we want to sort of recognize that because it hurts down here. See, a God who is in control of all things is almost harder to wrestle with than a God who's doing his best on any given day, like you and me. Because, well, like I'm doing my best, but it still means I mess a lot of stuff up. If God is just doing his best, I guess I can understand why there's calamity and tragedy and suffering in this world. But if God is actually good and he's in control of all things, this is a lot harder to wrestle with. God is sovereign, though. He is in control. There is nothing controlling him. And that makes it challenging because for God to both be all powerful and good, and then the world to look like this, that is really the problem that every religion is going to have to confront sooner or later. And I think that probably the best way to talk about this would be to take a step back because pain gives you tunnel vision. When you hurt, it sort of really focuses you in on that thing that hurt you. So if you stub your toe, like all of the whole wide universe, it'll shrink down to just your toe and the coffee table, and like there's nothing else in the world that matters. And so when we want to talk about God being in control, but the thing that hurts is really the only thing we can think about. So let's take a step back. Um, I love my kids, but my house is always messy. Let's talk about it this way. My house is always messy, and like we've done our best, um, but it's not working so well. Like we have chore lists, and it gets messy again. We read articles from magazines that did things that they showed on TikTok that was going to make it way more clean. It just gets messy again. There's a simple reason that it gets messy in my house. I have kids, they keep messing it up no matter how many different things I try. It just mess it up again, and I don't like it. Like I step on Legos, it hurts. I can't find stuff that I'm looking for. Sometimes the counters are sticky, and I don't like that at all. I hate that my house is messy, and I've tried all of these things. So I've got this really simple solution. I can never have a messy house again. It makes all the sense in the world to me. All I have to do is murder my kids, because if I murder my kids, they'll stop messing up the house. See, it's all coming together. It just takes a little one choice. It's something to not consider if you actually want to talk about love. So here's the deal then when it comes to the other thing. God is in control of all things. He could, with just a blink, the thought, send anybody who would ever make this world worse straight to hell. Anybody who's ever sinned against somebody else, anybody who's ever messed up, everybody who's done their best and it just wasn't enough and it made the world worse. That's called a sin. A sin is something that breaks God's good creation straight to hell. He would have a perfectly ordered creation where nothing bad ever happened. That's not love, though. See, I don't like having a messy house, but at the end of the day, I would rather sit down in the mess and read a book to my kids. I would rather hang out with them and talk about Pokemon. Uh, it's better, even in the mess, to be with them than apart from them without it. So when it comes to the creation, we broke it. Our sin broke it. God didn't break the creation. We did by our sin, and we keep breaking it over and over again by more sin. And God could, in his power and his sovereignty, just wipe us all out straight to hell. But instead, we can find him dwelling in the midst of creation. Because when everything is falling apart, he doesn't sit in heaven and just sort of say, "Oh, shucks, try harder." He climbs down into the pit. He suffers on the cross, both for the sinners and the sinned against. And he dies for you, for me, and for all. When everything's falling apart, God puts himself right at the center of it because he's sovereign. There's nothing that is controlling him. He is in control of all things. And instead of just using that to sort of make things ordered, he uses that sovereignty to exercise love, mercy in this world. And mercy is messy. Love is messy because it's sacrifice, because it's loving sinners, which means they're still going to be sinners, but now they're loved ones, they're forgiven ones. And this is where we can start to find God's sovereignty and as a gift. Because when he uses it in mercy to save and to forgive. So when we talk about God being sovereign, we mean that he is free from somebody else controlling him. He is in control. That also means that it's not your job to make God do what you need him to do. And that's the greatest gift of God being sovereign. You don't need to control God because he is already merciful. He's already good. And he's already got this whole thing under control. He's already died on the cross. He's already conquered death itself. And so there's a bajillion things wrong, and he hates it too. He hates it so much that the only way he can even look at it down here without utterly losing his mind is by bearing it himself, dying on the cross, and taking the worst upon it himself so that we can be brought through it and unto life everlasting, unto the resurrection that cannot be corrupted by sin ever again, cannot be hurt or broken ever again. The promise that God makes to you that he is sovereign, that he is in control, is that he will exercise his authority. He will not need to be controlled, but he will work for your good so that you don't have to save yourself. You don't have to make him do good things. He already wants to. If God is sovereign, it means you can't control him. You can't make him do more stuff, but you also don't need to because he's already good and he's already worked and he will continue to work for you. Think about it. If somebody has spent that much on you, not gold or silver, but his holy and precious blood, his innocent suffering and death, he doesn't abandon you. In fact, he can't. He day by day, week by week, year by year, pours out more mercy, more compassion. He bears with us and for us day by day through word and sacrament, until at last we're brought through this veil of tears into the glories of the life to come. See, the sovereignty of God is not exercised the way that we would exercise sovereignty, mostly because I don't want somebody to bully me, so I want to bully them. Instead, God exercises his sovereignty in mercy on the cross, by suffering, by dying. It's the opposite of how we would operate as sovereign, because, well, we would not be made to die on the cross. He wants to suffer and die for you. He was not coerced. The Son of God went willingly to suffer for you. He loves you so much that when everything is falling apart, he wants to be in the messy house, reading you books and talking to you about Pokemon, and suffering for your sins and carrying you through into the glories of life everlasting, so that when everything is falling apart and you can't find God, look to the cross and you can find him. He's not hiding. He's not abandoning you. He's right where he's promised to be, in control and for your good.